Hello, hello, hello. Happy Wednesday to everybody out there. Y'all, I have been waiting to do this show for so long and waiting to introduce you to one of my very best friends in the whole wide world, somebody I've known for a really long time. But when you hear her story, when you hear what she has been through, what she has overcome, and where she is today, you are going to want to know her better. So I've got a really big favor to ask you during this show. This show is the launch of her new book, her new project, and really this whole next chapter in her life. And so with that being said, I'm going to ask you to listen intently. I'm going to ask you to share this out to your friends and to your family, to tag people in it, because I think everybody needs to hear Amy Westbrook's story. So let me cue up the video real quick, and I'm going to be right back with Amy. All right, without further ado, let me bring on Amy. Hello.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. How are you? I feel like I've got a hat like right down in my eyes. I'm just being real here, people, today.
I was so close to a hat, but I thought the first time that I get to talk to Lisa on camera, I'm not going to slap on my baseball cap because mine wouldn't have been as cute as yours. Mine was like girl power or something, kind of like a faded out.
That's cute, but I mean, like you stand the Louis Vuitton, and it's like really a Louis Vuitton. You know, Alex bought it for me, so she bought it for me for Christmas.
I love it. It's you.
I know, and Amy, like you know how it is, like when you and I get something out of a box, because Amy and I are such shoppers that I was like screaming to have the LV baseball hat.
I would have been too. It's so cute.
Thank you. Well, Amy, you know, I kind of gave you a big build up. And so first of all, you know, everything about me, like when I talk to everybody who follows me and stuff like that, it's just about being real. And so this is a really big step in your next chapter. And you have now made the decision to take your story, and you have before, but like really go big. You know, some of the things you've done is, you know, you hosted a radio show, a pretty big one on a Christian radio station here in Austin. I mean, I could not get on social media and not see, you know, Amy Live and all of that. And then, you know, you are an author, you know, you were a journalism major in college, and you've been working on this book that we're going to talk about now for 15 years, probably 12 years, ever since.
Pretty close.
Yeah, it feels like it at least. And, you know, and then you've made the decision to really, you know, kind of come out of your shell. And that's a little bit hard to do.
Right.
You know, you always had your faithful audience and people that followed you and supported you. And now you're like, you know what, this story, my story has to go out to the world. And so I said, well, let's start it on my show. So I'm going to ask everybody out there who's watching this today to share this show, to follow Amy. We're going to give you ways to follow Amy. We're going to prove to her the power of social media. I am not sure she's 100% convinced yet.
Okay, I'm embracing it though. I am.
I know you are. I know you are. So, okay. So enough of me here for a second. Tell everybody about Amy.
Yeah. Well, I was joking with somebody the other day and I said, you know, where I've been, you know, why haven't you been building your social media following? And I said, well, I've spent 3 decades learning how to overcome and conquer unexpected outcomes. That's where I've been. So you're right. It is now time to just share my story with the world. And there's 2 parts to my story. One part is that until I really understood what habits truly are, not goals, but habits. When I understood, I had an epiphany about the difference. A goal is not a habit. Habits are not a goal. And when I enlisted habits on a daily basis and I put them on my schedule and I looked at them every single day, that manuscript that I had been working on for 12 years, little by little, happened in 5 months. I mean, it was all about the habits. And then on the flip side of my story, I am a woman of faith and I believe in God's timing. And as I see how rapid this book was turned around and it's about to be launched at such a time as this in our world, it is all about conquering unexpected outcomes in your life. And certainly that is what's happened to the world right now. I mean, this is an unexpected outcome. And I know a lot of people that this is not their first unexpected outcome, right? They were already battling things in life. And then COVID, hit and just rocked their world. And my story is about things, I talk about things that paralyze us in life. What is paralyzing you? And for me, it was the ultimate. It was physical paralysis. I found myself in the ICU of Seton Hospital here in Austin, Texas, waking up as a paraplegic, a mom, a wife, an entrepreneur, an athlete, the Energizer Bunny type. And it rocked my world. It was an unexpected outcome, to say the least.
It was. And so part of where I can give a testimony to this story is that I was in the hospital waiting room, myself and a couple of friends, Susan Hurley, and waiting for the doctor to come out. You were in surgery. You'd had a tumor in your spine, and you didn't know the depth of it or how, what was going on, but you were in pain. You were physically paralyzed.
Right.
Now was the time you had to go do surgery. And Amy, I just remember that surgeon walking out, and he said, "It looks like a bomb has gone off in her back, in her spine."
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, what?
Yeah.
And it was so crazy. It was so insane. And then from there, we knew that they were taking you into ICU. And, he didn't want to tell us too much, but he did tell us that day, I don't know what's going to happen. Because, us, we're like, well, what about this? What about this? He's like,
right.
Well, I don't know. All I know is that it looks like a bomb has exploded in her spine.
Yeah. So what's so amazing about that is that my condition was misdiagnosed multiple times. I had flown to Johns Hopkins Hospital. I'd actually been to MD Anderson, and then the doctor that saw me there years prior had become the director of neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins Medical Center. So we flew there a couple of times. They refused to do anything about it and still misdiagnosing it. They still did not realize it was a tumor that had ruptured inside my spinal cord. And on that third trip, I was unable to go back. I was paralyzed with pain. In fact, I tried to go to the grocery store and got paralyzed in the middle of the store. My sister had to come and rescue me. So we knew I was in really, really big trouble. And I had to find somebody very quickly here in Austin that could take my case in an emergency situation and figure out what to do. He still was thinking that it was something called a cavernous angioma. He said, I've done this before. I can do it for you. You should have about a 2 or 3 hour surgery, 2-day stay in the hospital, and then you'll be up and walking and you'll be at home. Well, that turned into a 5.5 hour surgery where the surgeon was trying to determine what was cord and what was tumor to take out. And my 2-day stay in the hospital turned into 2 months at HealthSouth Rehab Hospital. And they were hoping that I would walk again. And I was hoping that I would run again, Lisa. I was a runner. I wanted to run. My daughter had just turned 4 years old. I had plans with my daughter, and they did not involve physical paralysis.
Yeah, I so tear up talking about this story because, again, for those of you tuning in, like myself and Amy's tribe of friends, we all lived this story every single day with her, taking turns, picking her up after she got home and taking her to rehab and things like that. But the thing about you, Amy, is, and I've said this for how many years ago was that? Well, Lauren was 4, it was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Is that you never said, why me?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might have said it privately and to God, and I wouldn't have blamed you, but you never said it to any of your friends. You never said, why me? Why did this happen to me? Mm-hmm. And so our very good friend, Susan Hurley, and I decided it was night she had surgery the next day, that because Amy's such a girl's girl and she always wore the highest heels. It didn't matter how much pain she was in. Amy is always dressed. She's always perfect. So Susan and I went out and we wanted to make her this whole present tree. But the main thing we wanted to get her, stockiest shoes ever, but these Jessica Simpson red patent leather 4-inch heels. And Susan and I made this decision that if you could see those every single day, that you would not be able to stand it, not being able to wear them. And
Yes.
somehow, some way, you were going to figure out how to walk in them again. So we like brought the shoes up to Amy's hotel room. My gosh, her hospital
It kind
room.
of turned into a hotel room, actually.
It did, and we brought them up there and we sat them in the window sill. And the nurses were like, "Why are those here?" And we're like, "Oh, because she needs to have like ambition, or like, you know, she has to want to walk again, and she's just going to die to wear these shoes." And those nurses thought we were terrible human beings. They almost thought like we were taunting our friend or something. But
right.
Knowing Amy, like we knew Amy, we knew that she's so determined that she'd sit and look at those shoes every day and go, "I'm walking in those things again."
Yes. Yes. And so the high heel shoes became famous, and each room that they moved me to, I would take the shoes and put them back in the window. And of course, I had dozens upon dozens of nurses over that time period. And, you know, when a new nurse would come in, she would go, "Oh, what's that over there in the window?" Or
You're like my tacky friend.
Oh, those red high heel shoes, girl. I'm going to take those shoes home with me. And I know that as I was laying there as a paralytic, they were thinking, "What on earth does this girl have, you know, high heel shoes?" And I would just say, "That's a goal. That's a goal. That's a goal." And it was a great subject to talk about with my nurses.
It was. So, all right. So take us through. So you were in the hospital, and what I can't remember because it's been 12 years ago,
Yeah.
you were in the hospital for so long, and then they moved you to Health South, which was the rehab, where you were in hospital for a while, and then we ended up all taking shifts to take you for outpatient.
Correct. So I'll just dive into a couple of things here for our listeners today, and I'll give you some sneak peeks into the book. I just want to share some moments that were so pivotal for me in this journey. And I think that for anybody that's listening today, and if you're finding yourselves in the trials of life, I'm going to give you something that you're going to be able to grab hold of and run with. And what happened, Lisa, that first night, the ambulance transferred me from the hospital over to where I would reside for the next 2 months. And as they wheeled me on the gurney around the corner where the nurses' station was, one of the nurses said, "The para we are expecting has arrived." Mm. Hearing that nurse refer to me as a para sent me into a very, very deep, dark place. It was an abyss that I have never known. And that night in that room with just myself and my God and my condition, I got a download. And what I heard that night, they weren't words, they were thoughts, but I knew they were not my own. And what I heard was, "Amy, move forward as if you are birthing something and not as if you've been stolen from." Wisdom came to me that night. Think about that. Move forward as if you are birthing something and not as if you've been stolen from. I mean, being stolen from makes you feel less than and cheated and bitter, but birthing something, it holds such possibility and excitement. And there's anticipation in birthing something. And that perspective, I have an entire chapter on perspective, because that perspective shift that God gave me that night, and I do believe that that was a download from God, changed everything about my healing. Because every time I would want to crater, I would say, "This is a birth and not a death. This is a birth and not a death." And I would continue to think that way. And I have thought that way for over 12 years as I continue to regain everything that I lost that moment on the surgery table.
Oh, God, I remember those words exactly. I hadn't thought about them probably in 10 years. But I remember every piece of that. And I see Liz Lyons is on here, who is your publisher and editor.
Yes.
And she was
Liz.
mine and many others of ours because we love Liz so much. And Lachelle is on here and she says she loves it. Visual cues help her so much with overcoming my 13-year battle with depression. Our good friend Shaka Dyson is on, and Anthony and Megan and Chris and Cynthia. So people are really listening to you, Amy. And we always knew that you would have a big voice in ministry. In sharing your story, but talk to us about how, because we actually told your story in our first book, Renee and I did.
That's right.
Crushing Mediocrity.
Yeah.
Yes. And we touched on what you were comfortable touching on. So, bring us forward a few years. Tell us some of the things you went through without giving away the new book, because y'all are going to need to buy this book to support Amy. So
yes, you got to buy the book and then you got to share it.
Yes.
It really is a book about tenacity. It's a book about fighting for your freedom. It's a book about fighting for pressing through anything in life that is keeping you from being everything you desire to be. I have had to press through 1,100 therapy sessions, Lisa. 1,100. But let me tell you how I've done that 2 ways. In the ICU, and I'm not going to give this part away because it's huge.
Because you got to buy the book, people. Chris said that he needed this message today.
Oh,
yes.
So in the ICU is where something radical happened, and it was a shift inside of me where I purposed myself, mind, will, and emotions, that I was going to not just walk, but I was going to run again. Because I knew when that surgeon stood at the base of my bed and began to try to talk to me about what had transpired on that surgical table, I could tell he was hoping I would walk. And I was laying there thinking, walk, I want to run again. And so I made some decisions. And I began to use words out of my mouth, and I set in stone my focus and my perspective that I was gonna run again someday. And that's how I headed out of the ICU. And that carried me through, and that flows through the entire story, even to today. I use it in my own just regular life, my professional life, my life as a parent. And the other thing that happened was a conversation that a doctor had with me probably day 2 of the hospital. And that doctor talked to me about taking charge of my healthcare from that day forward. I mean, that guy obviously knew the ride that I was in for. And he began to talk to me about not waiting on the doctors, not waiting for them to tell me what I need or for them to tell me what was wrong with me, but for me to take active, participatory, purposeful action for my care. And that is what has allowed me to be able to show up 1,100 times for therapy, is because I've known that I was where I was supposed to be for the time being. And then what has happened with that mindset is that every time when I'm done there, when they have served me as well as they can serve me, and it's time for the next thing has shown up like clockwork, Lisa. I've hardly had to look for it. Literally, that next thing has just been drawn into me because I'm aware, right? Because I'm watching for it, I'm looking for it, but I know I'm where I'm supposed to be for the time being. So it's been a really, really miraculous process that I've watched transpire over the last 12 years.
Well, Amy, the comments are amazing, and people are like saying things like they love it. This is what they needed today. So for those of you watching right now, if this is what you needed today, and you loved it, remember I said at the beginning of the show, and for those of you just tuning in, Amy has now decided that she's going to take, the book is done. She's going to really go public with her story, which she's done in snippets before because she was a radio host of a very, very successful show here in Austin, on a Christian radio station. But she's never done a lot on social media. Like I know she's horrified every time she gets near me. But she'll send me texts over the many years. She's like, "Well, I don't even need to talk to you because I know what you've been up to."
Yep, that's true.
But we're helping her kind of break in this journey, and we're helping her starting today. So if you are out there, like Shaka's got a show, and Anthony's got a show, Liz Lyons has got a show, and anybody else out there, if you want to book Amy as a guest, she would love to do that because she needs to get her message out in every circle, this message of hope and pushing through paralyzation and unexpected outcomes. If you would follow her on social media, if you would share this out, because I think everybody who's listening today and those who will be jumping on the replay know that this is a story that people need to hear as for such a time as this.
Yeah.
So Amy, kind of as, you know, we got a few more minutes left, but tell us, what do you want people to get from your book? What are the takeaways? Like if Shaka Dyson reads it, or Lachelle, or I was about to say about Liz, but Liz is going to read it. She's the editor. Cynthia. Oh, and my mom said hi, by the way. Amy, I'm happy to see you. Sending my love. You know, what outcome from the unexpected outcomes?
I think it's oh gosh, you can do it. You are going to make it. You're not, this is not your last call in life. This is not the way it's going to be. Things are not going to stay the same. You can do this. That's the bottom line message. I mean, there's a lot of powerful messages, but the bottom line from this is that we don't have to settle for stuck. We don't have to settle for paralyzation. There is always a way out. And I don't care what story you come up with and you tell me, there is a way out. There is resolve that can be found. Listen, Lisa, hope is a choice. Hope is a choice. And when you choose hope, you will start seeing it everywhere. When you choose hope, you will start seeing it everywhere. And a lot of this, Lisa, is just, it's a mind issue. It is brain health. And I am a brain science geek. And that's probably from other than telling this story and helping people overcome unexpected outcomes, the other thing I am so passionate about teaching people is about brain health. Give me a challenge you are having, and I will be able to tie it back to how it's attached to your brain and your thoughts. Everything starts here. And I talk a lot about that in my book, with hopes that that's going to be an epiphany for somebody, that they realize I've been fighting the wrong problem. I've been fighting this. And really, I need to back up and I need to take some time to figure out what's going on up here, because it can all be renewed and reset. At the end of the book, I talk about the fact that we get to a place in life where I call it my re-world. It's a re-world. Renew, reset, re-involve yourself, re-engage. And I know for a lot of people listening today, you know that's true. And so if you could just embrace the fact that life gets to the point sometimes where it's a re-world, your mind can be renewed and rewired and refired. It'll change your whole life. It will change your whole life.
Well, Lachelle says she'd love to have you on her podcast, and her podcast is America Supermom, and that's what you are for sure. So I'm going to let you be sure to reach out to Lachelle. She's always so active on everything we do. I think, Lachelle, I met you in Outwitting the Devil. I think you joined mine and Sharon's group there. But
such a good book.
Oh, such a good book. Okay, so Amy, when is the book going to be ready? When can people start digging into this manuscript that I know because I lived it with you for 12 years, that will change their life?
And Lisa, before we go, I want to tell people that, but I want to say to you in public, and I've said it to you in private over and over, but I'm telling you, Lisa,
do not make me cry.
You are such a part of my book that I wrote. I mean, every time I had a chapter to write, there was something to write in there about you because of the kind of friend that you were and the godsend that you were to me. You showed up at just the right time. You knew just what to say. Your love and your support and your encouragement and just really the commitment to come to the hospital and see me and to come and pick my wheelchair up and take me to the I mean, you just were a friend of all friends. And for that, I will go to my grave forever grateful to you. And it's really, you really were the purest example of what a real friend really is supposed to be. So thank you so much for
Okay,
that.
I did not expect that. But
That's
I,
from my heart. That's from my
I,
soul.
I do want to tell you the funniest story ever. So you know where I'm going with this one,
Yeah,
Amy.
I do.
So Amy's like, I've got to get out of this hospital. Like, I need a field trip, right? So I was like, okay. And remember, I set this up at the beginning of the show that Amy is the biggest girl's girl you ever want to meet. Like, she makes me look like a tomboy. And she likes pretty stuff and her hair and her makeup and this, that, and the other. So I said, you know what? We're going to go to the mall. We are going to spring you from this hospital and we're going to go to the mall. So we load Amy up, the wheelchair, and I don't know if it was Dillard's or wherever it was, but I said, okay, I said, look, you're in this wheelchair and we're going to go get a bunch of sympathy and free stuff. So I would pull up to the makeup counters, pushing Amy in her wheelchair, and they were like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, she needs stuff.
And it was really for Lisa. Lisa's like, give me half of that.
And they would load up these bags with samples and fun stuff for Amy. And so anyways,
so good.
But it was just a time that we could laugh. I mean, obviously she was in a wheelchair, y'all. So we weren't, you know, God, I won't get any haters on that. But it was like we just needed something to laugh about. So like, you know, so we walked around the mall and I'd walk her up and people were like, oh my God, because you're so young and beautiful. And people were like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, she could really use some of that $1,000 face cream.
And it worked. I think, you know, in the book, I say we left with a few purchases and a whole lot of samples, I think is how I put it.
And then I can remember another day that we ended up at a furniture store.
Yeah, I tell that story too. I mean, you know, they're
I
just
cannot give away the book.
Telling.
But y'all, we refurnished her house one day and then we had to tell her husband. And he got so mad at me because he was like, mad. No better, Lisa Copeland. And I was like, she wanted to go shop for furniture. What am I going to do?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Those were good times. You got to you got to laugh or you'll cry. So
yeah,
I would love to connect with people. The best place is just to go to livewithamy.com. Everything is there. My website, my podcast. If you connect with me through that website, then I'll be able to send you the release date for the book. We are pressing hard for the very end of summer. That might be wishful thinking, but if it is wishful thinking, it'll be in September because I am determined. And so this book is going to get out and it's going to get out now. So, I mean, it's coming really soon.
I love that. I love that. And so, okay. So everybody, if you watched it, if you just tuned in, okay, Amy needs to do a few things, right? And those of us who've written books, we know that she needs to build her email list.
Yeah.
Right. She has a big following from her radio show, but she needs to go outside of that community since this is going to be a global book and a global message. And her show was on, you know, Prime Radio here in Austin, Texas. But so she needs to go outside of that. She needs more followers on social media. So those of you big influencers out there, Shaka's a huge influence. Lachelle is, Anthony Santangelo. Anthony, I hope you're still on. I'd love for you to have Amy on your show. Liz Lyons, Cynthia's got a big following. Anyways, if you all would put it out there and ask people to follow Amy, because that's really hard for her to do. She does not like that, but this is a message that needs to be heard by so many people.
Yeah.
So anyways, Amy, I did post the link, livewithamy.com.
Great.
I don't think I did it as a link though, by accident. livewithamy.com. And Amy, are you going to start doing any sort of show or anything where people?
I am starting I'm transitioning a little bit with my podcast. And so the podcast will be back live in just about 2 weeks. And I am also going to start a show called It's Monday Lunch, and we'll be on at noon every Monday on Facebook Live, just really inspiration. And I'll do some interesting interviews, but more than anything, just to set the tone of the week. You know, we all need that. And that inspires me. So to inspire others and to help pull you out of that funk that life tries to place us in. So it's Monday Lunch at noon on Facebook.
Yeah, it's Monday lunch. Okay, so everybody out there, thank you so much for tuning in. If you were inspired by Amy's message, if you would share this out, if you would tag people, this is a story that needs to be heard. It needs to be told to your friends and to your family. And like I said, I lived it with her, so every piece of it, she under exaggerates the pain and the strife and all the things that she had to go through to ultimately walk again. And Amy, I don't even know that we said that.
I don't know we said that. I walked out of my wheelchair, you guys. That's the great end of the story. The story's not over, but that was a huge leap, right?
Yes. And in fact, we were all there when you took your first steps. All your friends came, and so that was just another beautiful thing in the life of Amy.
All of those miracles, really. That I had a couple of miracles that got me out of that chair, and those are all in the book.
That's right. So we're not going to give away anything else because y'all need to buy the book. And it's a great book. And Amy, I think you're releasing it at a good time because it'll be coming into Christmas. And so, people can buy it for people that need hope. So anyway, my dear friend, thank you. Thank you.
Lisa, thank you so much. What fun.
The website, livewithamy.com. That's how you can follow Amy and read more about her story, buy her book, follow her on social media. Sherry Matthews is on.
Oh, hey, Sherry.
Sherry's saying, buy the book.
And I believe you guys, Facebook is the same. You can just go to Live with Amy on Facebook. So
Live with Amy. Yeah. All right, everybody. So thank you again for tuning in and spending this time with us. And I will see you again soon. Amy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Love you.
Love you too.
All right. Bye.